W3d Language and Narrative is all about building a stronger, more vivid image for your reader, and therefore helping them better connect with your plot and characters. This particular target asks that you can consistently and effectively use precise words and phrases, showing details, and sensory language to convey a vivid picture of the experiences, events, setting, and/or characters. At the 4 level, you are able to do this in a unique way, and I would again interpret that as there are no errors. Everything that you intended to create a vivid image worked in your favor. At the 2 level, you are a little inconsistent or ineffective, so you might have some examples where it just wasn't quite the right touch for the experience you were trying to show us. And at the 1 level, you tell rather than show the experiences, events, and/or settings. So I wouldn't see much of the techniques I'm going to show you next used at all. So the first technique we're going to talk about is addressing the precise words and phrases part of this particular target. And what we're really talking about here is being specific. Okay? Just as a few examples, don't use man when you could give a name or a profession instead, or both, right? Give people names. There's a lot of power in giving names. We have people who are around us all the time, and we know their names. So use that same strategy in your writing. For a verb, you're looking at action. Okay, so your character's looking at something. Well, how are they looking? What if they were glaring? That tells a much stronger story. We're getting some anger here now, and that's going to be more precise. Instead of mad as an adjective, how mad? Furious. That gives us, again, that intensity that will be more precise than just saying mad. A more extended example from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. A mass of filthy matted hair hung to his elbows. If eyes hadn't been shining out of the deep dark sockets, he might have been a corpse. The waxy skin was stretched so tightly over the bones of his face, it looked like a skull. His yellow teeth were bared in a grin. It was Sirius Black. Now, JK could have just said here, oh, he had long hair, he looked ill, he was thin, but instead we get filthy matted hair to his elbows to indicate that his hair is long and yucky. We get that he had eyes that were the only thing alive in a really sunken-in face, and that he's very pale, he's corpse-like. We get the direct waxy skin, but we also get that it's stretched very tight to indicate that he's very thin. We get his yellow teeth bared in a grin, so we get some emotion there. Bared is something you'd hear talked about as far as a predator. And then we end with Sirius Black to indicate who it is, so we give a name to be very specific. The target also asks for showing details, and while being precise can help show, there are other things you can do too. And in particular, you can really be precise with your verbs. And I would say using strong action verbs is a great way to help show what's going on. They can help reveal both the intensity and the emotion behind the action. So for instance, if you are having a character walk, well, what kind of a walk? Are they strolling? It's a peaceful day, there's romance going on in your story, whatever. Are they dragging their feet? They don't want to do whatever it is that they're walking off to do. Help indicate that. Quite often, if you're using dialogue, you're going to want to use a tag, said, okay, but that doesn't really give us any clue as to the intensity or the emotion of what's being said. If someone exclaimed, they could be surprised, they could be a bit alarmed. If they roared, they're probably angry. So your character is running. Are they jogging for their health, or are they just in a mild hurry? Are they sprinting because they need to get somewhere fast? Maybe something bad has happened. Give us those more specific, strong action verbs to help reveal that. Another example from The Prisoner of Azkaban. Hermione, gasping for breath, her lip bleeding, scrambled aside, snatching up her and Ron's wands. Ron crawled to the 4-poster and collapsed onto it, panting, his white face now tinged with green, both hands clutching his broken leg. So we've got our main verbs for this particular sentence. Scrambled, crawled, collapsed. All of these are indicating that something is wrong. You don't scramble just for fun. You don't crawl just for fun, unless you're a baby. You don't collapse just for fun. So we're using these verbs here to create a very dark image, help to reveal the emotion of the scene. And then we've got some secondary verbs used more as present participles here. They're just description, gasping, lip bleeding, snatching, all of these, panting, all of these, clutching too, building on that really dark imagery. The target also asks that you use sensory language. So remember, this is where we reveal detail through touch, taste, smell, sight, and what you can hear. And just to give you some examples, several different examples here, imagine, if you will, a house fire. You might touch or feel, I should say, the heat from the door. You might taste the ash in the air. You would smell the smoke. You might see the red glow from beneath the door. You might hear the sharp crack of the breaking beams. All of these can help make clear where we are and just how dangerous the situation is. Let's say, on the other hand, you want to write a romance piece. Maybe you can touch the soft petals of a rose. You taste the chocolate you ate just before you walked down the aisle, trimmed with roses that you see, smelling those roses with their sweet perfume, and hearing the chords of the wedding march. Use, again, all of these senses to help convey that detail for your piece. Again, from The Prisoner of Azkaban, but a pair of strong, clammy hands suddenly attached themselves around Harry's neck. Clammy. We're already establishing the tone here. Clammy is not a positive word. They were forcing his face upward. He could feel its putrid breath, which is both what we can touch, we can feel the air hitting us, but also the smell. Putrid is related to the stink that was coming from it. And this would be a Dementor we're talking about. His mother was screaming in his ears, so he can hear the screaming. And then through the fog that was drowning him, so he can see the fog, he feels like he's drowning. He thought he saw a silver light growing brighter and brighter. He sees his salvation coming. A final technique that can really help you round out your language use, it's not directly addressed with the standard, but it's a really easy way to help build up the imagery, would be to use figurative language. And this could be using tricks like metaphor, personification, antithesis, and allusion, to name just a few, to help make the connections for readers. And that's the nice thing about figurative language. They help connect what your readers already know, so use that to your advantage. For instance here, we might, again, read these all the way across. A man stood quiet as the mountain. Mountains are strong, they're silent. We're really showing just how quiet he was. The air danced around him, so the air is dancing, it's a little bit playful, but it's both friend and foe. Some antithesis here. It's fresh yet bitterly cold because he's on a mountain. Like Zeus, he would watch the world below. So we've got some classical allusion here to help give this man who's standing on the mountain power. He's able to watch like a god what's going on below him. A different type of example, she was a lioness scanning for prey. Well, a lioness is fierce, will take down any danger or any meal that needs to be taken down. So I'm already establishing that whoever the she is, she's powerful. The walls laughed as they closed in on her victim. So this is a dark, dark sentence here. We're using the word victim, but the walls themselves are laughing. They're mocking as that victim is chased down by the lioness woman. She would be both angel and demon. There's our antithesis, our opposites, killing only to save another life. So yes, she is going to commit murder, but she's saving the lives of others. Perhaps the man that she is about to close in on, or the woman she's about to close in on, is also a murderer, a bigger danger. She was Batman, Superman, the heroes of the age. So we have an allusion to heroes who have to make hard choices about who gets to live and who gets to die, comparing back to our she, the lioness. Another example from Harry Potter, his limbs felt like lead, his eyelids too heavy to lift. Sorry, typo there. He wanted to lie here on this comfortable bed forever. So coming from the very end of Harry Potter, before he learns the truth about Sirius Black and then goes off to fix it, he's ill, he feels so yucky that he's like lead. He can't even move his limbs. So we've got our example that we've been working through all of the narrative targets here. Remember, we're talking about our character Jane, who has two conflicts: depression, doesn't get along with her coworkers, and we've got our short story built around those two conflicts. If I'm going to be very precise in my language, I'd want to make sure that as I'm talking about those coworkers, that I name them. This isn't just the lawyer down the hall. This isn't just the other woman mocked her. Give them names, make them more lifelike in that sense. We can also be very clear with the verbs that we're using here. We talked earlier about this rising action being a flashback, so perhaps she comes back to, she's burying her face in her pillow. To bury is something you talk about when you talk about death. You're burying your loved one. It's a dark word, just as Jane is feeling very dark right now, and she's wishing the memories would stop coming out of that flashback, perhaps. And then combining a little bit of figurative and sensory detail here at the end in our bright resolution. She felt the warm breeze caress her cheek, heard the hum of bees as they visited the sweet-smelling flowers. So what she can hear, what she can feel. And then we're also working in some figurative language. Life, a winding river would turn out okay, comparing life to a river. It's smooth, it's rough at different times, but in the end, it will be okay. And also the breeze is caressing her cheek. It is basically just giving her a gentle touch to indicate that it will all be okay. Personification there to help make this image even stronger and more positive.